Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Ubaruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday morning, Erev Shabbat Kodesh. As we are studying together Perashat Tazria, Perashat Metzora, Perashat discusses over here the leper, a person who speaks gossip about other people. That is probably what your rabbi in shul is going to speak about tomorrow. If I had to take a guess, 99% chance he's going to speak about Lashon Hara and gossip. And of course, this is what the parasha is about. Midrash, this week's parasha, Midrash says, Tehillim, Ma'aseh berochel, story of a rochel, of a peddler. Interesting word, rochel. Peddler. A peddler can be someone who peddles gossip, right? Lo telech rachil be'amecha. So there was a peddler. However, hayam mehazir ba'ayarot, shayu smuchot letzipori. He was making his rounds in the vicinity of Sipori, also an interesting city. Why does it tell us the city? Why does it matter? And why was that the specific city? Was it by chance? Sipori, okay? Throwing a lot of hints. Not going to answer these questions necessarily, but definitely food to think about. And he would announce the following: Man ba'el mizban sam hayim. Who wants life? Who wants a sam hayim? Who wants a life-giving drug, elixir, potion? Mi ha'ish chafetz hayim. Who wants life? Life for sale. 50 cents a life. Okay, remember that book? He made this announcement. Odkin aleh, and people came running to him. Imagine you went in the streets. I have money. Who wants money? Everyone will come running, right? Mr. Beast, right? Giving away millions of dollars. Everyone's coming, signing up. Who wants life? Rabbi Yanai havayativu pashat beturklane. Rabbi Yanai was sitting and he was studying Torah. Sham'ed machriz, and he heard him announcing, Man ba'e sam hayim. He heard this peddler announcing who wants the drug of life. Okay. Amar le. Rabbi Yanai came to this peddler and he said to him, Tasak lehacha zabin li. Please come here and sell it to me. Amar le, he said to him, Lav ant tzarich le ve'la dechvatach. He says, you or anyone like you are not the people that I have in mind to sell it to. You guys don't need me. Atrah aleha, nonetheless, Yanai persisted. Please give it to me. Salik legabe, he went over to him. So the peddler came and he said, okay, all right, you really don't need it, Rabbi. But if you really want to know what I was trying to sell, here you go. Hotzilo Sefer Tehillim. He pulled out a book of Tehillim, of Psalms from King David. Hir'alo pasuk, he showed him the pasuk. Pasuk said, Mi ha'ish hehafetz hayim. Chapter 34. Who is the man who wants life? Ma ketiv batre. And what does it continue and say? Netzor leshoncha mera. Guard your tongue from evil. Amar Rabbi Yanai, Av Shlomo machriz ve'omer shomer pivu shono shomer metzarot nafsho. And even King Solomon says this, his son, whoever wants to guard his mouth and his tongue from evil will save himself from troubles. Rabbi Yanai, when he heard the peddler, that this was the potion for life, he said, Kol yamai hayiti koreh pasuk hazeh velo hayiti yodei hechan hu. He said, my whole life, I read this pasuk in Tehillim. I never understood it till today, until the peddler came and he said, Mi ha'isha hafetz chaim, netzor leshoncha mera, that the greatest way to save oneself in life is by observing the laws of Lashon Hara. And what exactly did the rabbi mean? I never understood it. Maybe what he meant was that on a simple level, David HaMelech saying that if you want life in the next world, then you have to watch what you say. And what the peddler came to teach was, who wants life here? I'm selling you life for now. Man ba'eh, who wants life? Not talking about the next world. It's talking about this world. If you want to live in this world, watch what you say. So much of what we say could get us in trouble. How many times we say something, we didn't think, we just spoke, we responded, maybe somebody embarrassed us, maybe a spouse attacked us. And the truth is, if we just sometimes keep our mouths shut, the argument ends there. But what happens is we respond, and then it creates a whole snowball and fighting, and now Shabbat is ruined, and now the marriage is ruined, and sometimes being careful just how we say, what we say, can give a person a better world, a better life here in this world, right? The Ramban tells his son, first sentence, he says, speak softly. Be careful. Right? Metzora leshoncha. It's very hard to speak and yell and an insult when you're speaking softly. Right? Try doing that next time you're in an argument and you're raising your voice. Speak in a lower voice. And you'll see automatically it's like impossible to speak low and yell at the person, I hate you. I wish you were dead. It's very hard to do that. You know what I mean? It'll also get the other person super annoyed, right? The worst thing is when the other person is talking very calm. I'm not angry, right? That's the worst. That's the best way to get under someone's skin. But either way, that's a simple level. What Rabbi Yanai learned was that you want a better life, be careful of what you say. But there is a deeper idea today that I want to share with you from Rabbi Shlomo Freifeld. He says, why do we speak of other people? How come we speak Lashon Hara? Why do we do that? And if you pay attention. Listen, next time you talk, someone else is talking, ask yourself, right? Try to pay attention, count how many minutes of that conversation were spent, what percentage of the conversation was spent on talking about other people. Right? Pay attention next time. Try to do that next time you're in a lunch with somebody. Let's try to see how many times can you catch yourself about to talk about someone. Why do we like to do that? Why do people love to knock? Why do we do that? Like, I'm just trying to understand, like the psychology of it. What does talking about someone do? I understand why a person eats not kosher meat. I understand it. I mean, talking people, the way they describe, I never had, thank God, but the way people describe it, butter and the meat and the way it's prepared and blah, 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 blah. Okay, I hear the palate. I love food. You can't see my stomach over here, but I love food. I eat a lot. Baruch Hashem. Hashem bless me with metabolism, but I eat a lot of food. Okay, and I understand why a guy breaks Shabbat. I also understand the beauty of Shabbat and why we shouldn't break Shabbat. Shabbat is a gift, and I would never, even if given the opportunity, I would not want to be able to even go on my phone. I see Shabbat as a detox, as a beautiful day of freedom for me. That's what Shabbat is. I understand, I appreciate what Shabbat really is, the depth of Shabbat, and I only pray and hope I could give over that appreciation to my kids. But I understand if someone doesn't keep Shabbat, I get it. It's easier to push the elevator than it is to walk up 30 flights. I get it. But what is the attraction of gossip? What is the allure? What is so enticing? I want you to think about it for a second. Maybe you could even answer on the chat. What is the appeal? Welcome, bonjour. What is the appeal of gossip? News? So go turn on the news. If it's news, by the way, then really you should want to hear gossip. But I think there's also, people love saying gossip. What do we like saying it for? Go watch the news. There's so much news. You want news? Go read the news. What's the appeal of gossip? I think psychologically is because deep down we all want to feel good about ourselves. And when I speak gossip about somebody, it's an easy way, it's a cheap way for me to elevate myself. Right? Because if you stink, if you're no good, if I could point out why this person, you heard their marriage is on the rocks. Honey, you heard? Now deep down, really I know my marriage maybe is not so good. It's a little shaky. But if I could show why this other person's getting almost divorced, it makes me feel better about my stinky marriage. Right? If I could show you why this other person doesn't daven, doesn't pray, they don't have any kavanah, so it makes me feel better about my tefillah, which is very, very pathetic. If I could put down the other people, it makes me feel tall. There was once a politician who was very short. He didn't want to look short, so what did he do? He hired, on the news, whenever he was in front of a camera, he hired people that were midgets to stand around him. True story. He hired people that were short. Because if the people around me are short, then I feel tall. And it's a cheap way of lifting myself, my image. And really in life, we have to realize that this is the opposite. This is the opposite of what it means to live. What does living mean? To really live. To live means to give. That is the definition of living. To live means to give. A spring is called a mayim hayim, a living fountain. Why is a spring called a living fountain? Why is it called a living fountain? It's a fountain. What's hayim? Because a fountain is a source that gives. It's a never-ending source of life for other people. The definition of living, according to Judaism, to live does not mean breathe. I'm living. If a person's on a respirator, they're breathing. They're not living. To live means to give. That's the definition of alive. A person who's alive is a person who's able to give. Our rabbis tell us, by the way, there are 4 people that are considered dead. Arba'a hashuvim kemet. 4 people are considered dead. A poor person, a leper, someone blind, and someone barren, without children. 4 people are considered dead. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, what is the common denominator of these 4? Is that they are limited in their capacity to give. A poor person doesn't have to give. They're looking to just make their own ends meet. They can't give. Now they could give maybe other things they don't have, but in a way they cannot give because they're poor, they don't have money. A leper is isolated. He's put away in quarantine. He can't be around anyone. He can't give. A blind person cannot see the needs of other people, cannot see what you need. The first step of giving is to see. By Avraham Avinu it says, Vayar. He looked up and he saw. He saw the 3 men and he ran to them and he gave them what they needed. The first step of giving is to see. And when you can't see in life, my friends, when we don't look, and a lot of us, we can see, we have eyes, but we choose to remain blind. We choose to not see. Oh my God, really? I didn't know my sibling was struggling. I didn't know. Yeah, but we chose to not know. We were purposely blind. The first step is to look. Why didn't you ask? Really, there's people in the community that can't. I didn't know. Okay, whose fault is that? Well, how come you didn't know and the other guy did know? You know, you could walk out of shul and there could be people standing there and you could just not see. Oh, I didn't see. I was on my phone. I didn't see. The first step of giving is to see. A blind man cannot see. A blind man is limited in his capacity to give. A blind man is dead. That's what it means. A blind man is dead. And finally, a person who's barren. A person who cannot have children. They're limited. The greatest gift of giving, the highest level of giving, is to one's children. The reason Hashem created a system of parenthood is because Hashem wanted us to become givers. There's no greater giver in life than a parent. You see, we're all born takers. And that's okay to be born a taker. But the goal of life is to become a giver. And I would tell you that 99% of people remain takers their entire life. 99% of people, they remain takers. Now, if you ask everyone in the street that you meet today, are you a giver or a taker? Everyone will say, I'm a giver. And they really mean it. They're not lying. They're not being insincere. Most people will be able to look you in the eye and say, with all sincerity, I'm a giver. And the truth is, Most people die and they remain takers. You know, a baby, you look at a baby, there's no bigger taker than a baby. A baby takes. A baby sees your toy, it's my toy. If a baby sees another sibling hugging the mom, says, no, my mommy, right? It's my mommy, not your mommy. A baby, everything is mine. There's nobody more selfish in life than a taker. A giver is happy, is energetic, is good relationships, excited for other people, appreciative. A taker feels everything is mine. Even what you have really should be mine, you're just in the way of it. I should have that house, I should have that car, I should have that job, I should have that spouse, I should have those kids. And no matter what they have, they always want more. They're unappreciative. I should have gotten better. They're miserable. They're entitled, never enough. Children view the world with this lens. I should have all of that. They always want more. Children are the biggest takers. We're all born children. We're all born babies. We're born taking. Our fists are closed, right? We want to take. And Hashem created a way for us to slowly transform into givers. And that is the relationships that we go through in our lives are to help us. So we start off as children taking, and then we develop friendships where we have to give. You cannot be a friend and take. No one will want to be your friend. Pirkei Avot says, get for yourself a Rav and get for yourself a friend. What is the difference between a Rav and a Haver? A Rav is a giver. The Rav-student relationship is one directional, it's one way. The Rav gives, the student receives. A Haver is where both give and receive. It's an equal relationship. The goal of life is to be born a Talmid, then to become a Haver, and then to end a Rav. That is the goal of life. We start off as the student, as the taker, then we become friends, friendships, Chavruta, Haver, where we learn to give. But ultimately the goal of life is to become the Rav, the parent. If a person is barren, and again, barren doesn't only mean with children. The Lubavitcher Rebbe was barren. There was no bigger giver than him. But the idea is that if I am barren, if I have no one in the world that I care about, that I impact, that I give to, whether it's biologically or spiritually or with support or whatever it is, then you're dead. You're just a dead man walking. To live means to give. And most people look at themselves, I'm a giver. I'm a giver. And the truth is that the reason we think that we're givers, is because when asked, are you a giver or a taker, we think about the moments that we give. We think about, what do you mean? Yesterday, I gave someone a lift. The other day, I gave someone a ride. I gave someone money. I gave someone a call. I gave someone a hug. I gave someone a loan. And we think about the giving that we do. And although it's true that we give, but question one is, how consistent is that giving? How consistent is that giving? Meaning, yes, we gave one time yesterday, 2 times the day before, another time 3 days ago. But how many times are we giving versus how many times are we taking? That's question A. And question B is we have to look at the motive of the giving. Why are we giving? Rabbi Yedid gives a great example. He says, imagine a guy, you walk into a store and you see a man, he's selling pizza. If you didn't know any better, you would look at this pizza man and you would say, wow, this guy, what a tzaddik. Everyone comes in hungry. Hey, can I get a slice? Sure, here you go. Hey, can I get a pie? Absolutely, take a pie. Would you like tomatoes? I like tomatoes. You want some cheese? Cheese. You look at this guy, he's sweating, he's behind the counter, he's wearing an apron, putting things in the oven, pulling them out, cutting up the things, putting it in a box. Have a good day. Wow. You look at this pizza man, what a tzaddik. What a tzaddik. If I asked you, is there any bigger giver in life than this pizza man? If you didn't know anybody, you would say, wow, he's the biggest giver. Look how much he's giving. In reality, everyone knows the only reason he's giving you a pie or a slice, he's only asking you if you want extra cheese because he knows that every pie is getting him now $40, $30. Every slice is $5. Every time he's giving you a pizza, he's taking from you $1. This man is not a giver. No one would tell me the pizza man's a giver, right? A pizza man is he's paying his bills, right? It's an example that we understand. He's doing it for the money. Every time he puts out his hand, he's really putting it out to take from you a credit card. Would you say this guy's a giver? I would say a pizza man is a giver. So the chesed that we do in our lives, we have to ask ourselves, really, the real question is, why are we doing it? If I give tzedakah, the real question is, why am I giving tzedakah? If a person gives tzedakah because they heard from the rabbi's class that tzedakah is the best, most assured way of making sure that Hashem is going to keep giving me. So really, I'm giving tzedakah, but it's only so that I should get more money tomorrow. So you're not giving anything. You're a taker. You're giving so that you could get. You know, a guy goes and he gets his friends gifts on their birthday. Wow, what a giver. What a nice guy. He's a nice guy. Or maybe the guy knows that next week's his birthday. The summer's coming up and he wants to use his friend's pool. So he gets you a gift so that he could get back from you in the summer. He's not a giver. This person's taking. His giving is so that he can receive from you one day. A person does hesed, but the goal of the hesed is so that they could talk about them at their wedding speech. You know? I know this rabbi. He's going to speak at my son's wedding. I want him to say nice things. So you're not really giving. Right? You're doing it for yourself. Even a person who does a mitzvot, a person could do mitzvot even for the sake of taking. That doesn't mean you're a bad person if you're doing all of the above. I mean you're a bad person. You know, you invite your friend to join you on your private boat. I'm a giver. You know, I ask people all the time, do you do achnasat orchim? Do you open your home? Rabbi, biggest achnasat I have every week. Last week I had my friends, the other week I had my family. It's not giving. You're taking. You're having your friend because you know your friend's going to have you next time. You're taking. Your giving is an act of really investing for yourself for the future. If I do a mitzvah because I want olam haba, you're also taking. Again, you're not a bad person, but your act of giving is not selfless. And the Rambam says that in order to enter olam haba, I'll tell you what the Rambam says. To get olam haba, you need to be able to do one act in your life that's pure. That's what the Rambam says. To be able at the end of your life to do one act that's pure. That you did it, not for yourself, not for the fame, not for the honor, not for people to applaud you. But hopefully one day, all the doing that we do is just preparing the stage so that maybe one day in my life, I could reach a level where I'm sincere in my acts of kindness, where I'm sincere in my learning, where I did it for the right reason. The Rambam says if you could get there just once, maybe once, the Rambam's agreed that most of our motivations are not pure. And then maybe we're lucky we could get there one time in our lives. The goal of life is to be able to reach a level where I'm doing, where I'm giving, but not for you, not for me to receive, not for my olam haba, not for my honor, not for applause, or not for my wife to see so she thinks I'm a good man, but I'm doing it purely to give. That's a giver. And most people, if you ask them, are you a giver or a taker? They'll say they're a giver, but really what they mean is that they do acts of giving. But deep down, if we psychoanalyze, and we're not here to judge other people. We're here just to talk about and learn about ourselves. But if we're honest about the giving that we do, if we psychoanalyze, if we dig deep to the core, we'll find that really maybe we're a little bit selfish. Maybe really I only do give because I want to receive. It makes me feel good. People respect me more. People like me. It makes me feel better about myself that I'm liked. It's good to be liked. But to be able to do purely just for giving's sake, that's the level that Hashem reached. That's the level that Hashem did not reach. That's the level that Hashem is. And that's the level that He wants us to reach. To be pure givers. You can't be a giver. So the relationships in our lives, they help us try to get there, hopefully. When you become a parent is hopefully, not always, unfortunately, but a parent is not looking to take from their kid. A parent should not wake up saying, okay, what nachat is my kid going to give me today? That is the epitome of taking. A parent is to say, okay, what can I give today? If you feel like you're just giving your kid, Rabbi, I'm always giving them. Yeah, and that's the goal. The goal is to become givers. The goal is not to receive from your kid. If you became a parent to take, close shop. They're not here for you. They're not here because you had a bad day and you need to feel good about yourself. So come, honey, give me a hug. Then you're a baby. Okay? The parent's job is to give. Now, sometimes an act of taking can also be an act of giving, by the way. If someone comes and gives you a compliment or gives you a gift, that person that's giving you the gift, they want to give you. In a weird way, you can take in order to allow that person to feel good about their giving. And so your taking is actually an act of giving. Interesting, huh? Does that make sense? You could take from somebody that's trying to give you, right? I'll give you an example. You helped someone. You gave them tzedakah. They want to repay you. But their repayment is nowhere near the giving that you gave. You gave the guy $100,000. He wants to repay you, and you helped him get back on his feet and support his whole family. Now he wants to pay you back. He wants to give you a vacation. He wants to give you, I don't know what he wants to give you. Okay? He wants to take you out for dinner. He wants to pay. Now what's he going to pay at the end of the meal? $2,000? This $2,000 is not near the $100,000. And a person may say, well, if you're a giver, then you should agree to split the bill at most. But really, in a weird way, taking from the guy and letting him pay could be an act of giving. Because by me allowing him to pay, now in his mind he feels like we're even. And I gave him that feeling. And so although he's given me $2,000 and I took it, but I really gave him in the act of taking. Okay? But either way, my point is, my friends, that in life, alive, who's alive? Alive means not to just breathe. Alive doesn't mean you're sitting on a beach somewhere. Alive doesn't mean that you're going all around the world, that you're on a boat, that you're eating the best foods. To live means to give. That's the definition of living. Right? God says, Lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good to just be alone. The definition of to be alone, you can't give. To be tov, you gotta give. You have to have people around you. That's why, by the way, you should know, in Israel there are two lakes, two seas. There's the Kinneret and there's the Dead Sea. I heard one time something very nice. Why is the Dead Sea called the Dead Sea? So simply because there's no fish. You can't live in there. But there is another beautiful idea, and that is that these two lakes in Israel, they're connected by a river, the Jordan. Okay? If you ever saw a map, maybe you see it. The northern lake, the Kinneret, and the other one in the south, the Yam HaMelech, is a little bit bigger, and there's a lake. The Kinneret gives to the river. The water flows down the river down into the Yam HaMelech. But the Yam HaMelech, the water stops there. The Yam HaMelech receives, but it doesn't give that water to someone else. That is a Dead Sea. That's a Dead Sea. Right? I see dead people. I see dead seas. Right? And if my place, just tying it back to the leper, if I take my place in life by pulling others down, by taking away from others, that's how I exist. I exist by taking from you, by talking gossip about you, by ruining you. That is the definition of a taker. There is no one more dead. To live means to elevate, to praise. The peddler comes and teaches Rabbi Yanai, Mi ha'isha hafetz chayim. If you want to be alive, your life doesn't revolve around you feeling better about yourself by taking away other people. To live means that you're elevating those around you. Interestingly, one of the names of the tzarat was se'et, which is to raise, to elevate. And Hashem bless every one of us to transform throughout our tenure in this world, in our pilgrimage to planet Earth, to although we entered a taker, to be able to elevate ourselves through different progressions, through the different relationships that we have in our lives, to Be'ezrat Hashem one day become givers, not just people who give, but true givers in the truest sense of the word, and to be zocheh to then have lived, to be a person who's truly chafetz chayim, like this peddler taught us beautifully, to be able to live and to give life to other people. Stop over here. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Hopefully see you all next week. Bye-bye.